Which 7-seat SUV should you buy? We've got 3 of the best and biggest selling models to help you figure out which is the best one for your family. Our trio includes the very popular Toyota Kluger, the very impressive Mazda CX-9, and the very much a challenger Kia Sorento. All 3 of these models come in various trim grades, but we've kept our selection to a strict price point of 45 grand. But you have to sacrifice a few things at this price point, including any pretense of off-roading. All 3 of these models are front-wheel drive, petrol-powered, and automatic. We'll assess each of them for their practicality, safety, and value for money, and of course, which is best to drive. But let's start off with practicality, because there are some differences in the usability of each of these SUVs. The Mazda is the longest of these 3 cars, but it doesn't really show it in the 3rd row. Sure, it's a little bit more spacious than the other 2, but not by much. And crucially, it misses out on 3rd row air vents. Even though the Sorento is the smallest on the outside, it's actually pretty roomy in the 3rd row. And when you're back here, the room on offer is pretty good. It's better than the Kluger, in fact. Sure, your knees are in a bit of an upright position, but it's definitely more comfortable than the Toyota. The Toyota has pretty big door apertures, so getting in and out is not too difficult, but once you're back in the 3rd row, it's pretty tight. It's only really a kid's space, but it does nail it for cup holder storage. There's 4 back here and 12 in total. The Toyota feels the most functional up front too, with this brilliant shelf that runs along the width of the dashboard and a massive center console bin, which I can almost fit inside of. But there's only one USB port. The other cars have 2, and it has a tiny touchscreen media system. Like the other cars, it has cloth seat trim, but unlike the other cars, it doesn't have dual zone climate control. The Mazda still has a smallish screen, but it has a better system with digital radio, sat-nav, 2 USBs, and a rotary dial controller. Storage isn't as good up front in the CX-9, but it looks smarter than both of its competitors. The Kia is our pick up front. It's got a bigger media screen than the other 2 with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Plus, it's also got sat-nav and digital radio. And like the Mazda, it's got 2 USB ports, one up front and one in the back. The cabin finishes are smart and stylish. Love the leather steering wheel and leather gear selector. It isn't quite as stylish as the Mazda CX-9, but it does have better cabin storage. There's a surprising amount of difference in terms of cargo capacity between these 3. The Toyota is tightest with 5 seats in use, and the Kia has the smallest boot with 7 seats up. The Mazda has the advantage in both respects according to figures supplied by the brands. So, it's the winner for boot room. If you have young children, keep in mind that all 3 of these SUVs have ISOFIX and top tether anchors in the 2nd row. The Mazda is the only one of these 3 with 3rd row top tether points, which is handy if you've got a lot of kids. But just watch your head on the boot. When it comes to safety kit, all 3 vehicles have a reversing camera and rear parking sensors, plus each has curtain airbag protection for all 3 rows. The Toyota adds a driver's knee airbag, which the others don't get. But the Toyota falls well short in terms of safety equipment. There's no AEB, no lane departure warning, and no blind spot monitoring. In the Mazda, you get all of that stuff, plus rear cross traffic alert, and the Kia has AEB plus front parking sensors and adaptive cruise control. The disappointing bit is that Toyota asks you to spend more than 60 grand on the top spec Kluger to access just some of that safety equipment, which for a family car just isn't right. So we've established some key differences between these 3, but there's even more to split them when it comes to what's under each of their respective bonnets. The Mazda is the only one of this trio with a downsized turbocharged engine, which allows it more torque or pulling power. The other 2 have V6 petrol engines, which are theoretically thirstier on fuel. In the real world, the difference is negligible. The Toyota and the Kia do use just a little bit more fuel in most situations, where the Mazda is a touch more frugal with its smaller engine. So what about how each of them drives? Let's start off in the Mazda. The CX-9's extra torque is definitely noticeable. It doesn't feel as stressed to drive because it's got the turbocharger working to keep things moving along at lower revs. If you're buying a 7-seater as more than just an appliance, this is probably the one for you. It offers good composure, good comfort, and it's involving to drive. Letting it down a little bit are its tyres, which aren't quite as grippy as they could be to take advantage of its brilliant chassis. Next up, the Toyota. Yep, there's no smart start on this base model Kluger, and the front-wheel drive version doesn't drive as assuredly as the all-wheel drive one. You will notice the front tyres can squeal and the steering wheel can tug to the side. That's torque steer when you do bury the throttle. That said, the steering is light and fairly manoeuvrable. The ride isn't as good as either of the other two, feeling a little bit patchy in most situations. The engine is punchy and likes to rev, but the transmission can get confused because it's got so many gears to play with, particularly at low speed. And finally, the Kia. The Kia nails the brief for road manners. The steering is light and urban friendly, but still offers enough connectedness to make you realise what's happening at the front wheels. And the suspension has been tuned to Australian standards, and you can really tell this feels at home on Aussie roads. The 8-speed transmission will hold on to gears, particularly lower ones, a little bit longer than you might expect it to, but that offers good reward. It's pretty punchy. And not only is it punchy, it's impressively smooth, and so are the gear shifts. There's one thing Kia does much better than its competitors, and that's backing its cars to offer a trouble-free ownership experience. The Kia brand offers a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty with 7 years of roadside assist and cap price servicing. The others, they only have 3 years of warranty cover, the Toyota with 100,000 Ks and the Mazda with unlimited Ks. Plus, Kia allows you to travel even further between services. It requires maintenance every 12 months or 15,000 Ks, where the other two need servicing every 10,000 Ks, and the Toyota every 6 months. So, what's the verdict? Well, obviously it'll depend on your personal circumstances as to which of these SUVs appeals to you most. But for us, in this test, there's a clear third place getter, the Toyota Kluger, which doesn't quite have what it takes against these two impressive competitors. Between the other two, the Mazda and the Kia, it's line ball. The Mazda has plenty of positive attributes and a beautiful cabin, but for me, the Kia with its 7-year ownership plan just can't be beaten, and it offers excellent value for money. Tell us what you think. Is the Kia the best one of these three? Let us know in the comments section below.